are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session of the Alliance for Community Trees Webcast Series. The ACTrees Webcast Series is a monthly webcast held at the lunch hour. These trainings leverage local successes by amplifying to a larger audience two model organizations, methods, materials, and approaches. Today, though, we're lucky and we have three different organizations that we're going to be hearing from. These sessions are planned to last for 1 hour with today 3 speakers presenting on the same topic from slightly different perspectives, and each presenter followed by a period of questions and answers so that you can get responses to the questions you have. Most state landscape architecture boards will provide continuing education to folks who request it. They just need a certificate to show that you have completed this educational session. So shoot us an email after the session if you need one of those to get continuing education credits from your state landscape architecture board. This is a program of Alliance for Community Trees. We're a national network of local organizations working to make communities cleaner, greener, and healthier by planting and caring for trees. If you're not already a member of Alliance for Community Trees, please consider joining. Today's session is Educating Environmental Stewards of Tomorrow. Studies show that children who are regularly exposed to nature have better chances at living healthy and successful lives. Nonprofits and community organizations can play an important role in fostering children's natural curiosity about trees and the environment. Several national organizations are already facilitating these learning experiences, both inside and outside the classroom. Whether incorporating tree identification into biology classes or examining real pine cones in an outdoor learning space, when we nurture children's relationships with the natural world, we empower the next generation of environmental stewards. We're really lucky to have 3 presenters today who are going to tell us all about how they are doing this important work with youth. Before we get going, I do just want to let you know that we may be experiencing some slight technical difficulties on our connection, so if there is a 5 to 10 second delay in the slides, our apologies, please bear with us. Other than that, we are excited to get started, and today our first speaker is Judith Hope Blau, who is the pro bono creator and director of the Treachers Environmental Education Program. Treachers uses whimsical imaginary characters to help teach children about the functions and role trees play in keeping the earth healthy. A creative person by design, Judith is a published author and illustrator. She's also a toy inventor and designs concepts for the gift, home furnishings, and apparel industry. Judith's products for children have recently been inducted into the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, and we know and love Treachers, as do many people. Judith, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so pleased to share information with you today about the Treachers Environmental Education Program. It's hard to believe that in 2014, the Treachers program will be 30 years old. The program brings you fantasy illustrated characters that are used as a tool to engage and introduce children to the real magic of nature. By using mnemonics, humor, and friendly cartoon characters, a child can gain a basic understanding of biology and the mystery of life in, on, and around a tree. Over the years, these whimsical creatures evolved into a growing community of over 40 characters, called the Treachers, the Mudsters, the Sproutlings, and the Forest Fiends. Just by knowing the name and job of each character helps reveal the functions of the tree and how each process is dependent on the other. Children meet forest friends like Sprig, the Treatum Fighter, who teaches about trees and forests, Chlorophyll and Chlorophyllus from the Sunbeam team. They introduce photosynthesis, Blossom, the tree twirler, all about pollination, Stewart, the street treacher, he's cool and champions urban forests. And then there's Humus, one of the decomposers, called Mudsters. We all do need a good sense of humus. The program's mission is to introduce children ages 3 through 10 to activities for indoors and outdoors in both urban and rural settings to gain a basic understanding and appreciation of how trees function and how to plant and care for them, of trees as valuable resources, the planting process, and how it is key to the survival of our trees and forests, the role trees play in the ecosystems to help keep the earth healthy, trees and forests as a renewable, natural resource to be harvested and managed carefully, the benefits of trees to our cities and our economy, an understanding of how trees help keep humans and wildlife healthy, and of course, the beauty trees bring to our earth. The goal of the program is to actually earn your green heart by understanding the mission of the program, which then leads to caring about planting and stewarding trees. On each Treacher character there is a tiny green heart, except for the babies and sproutlings who are busy earning their green hearts and with whom the child identifies as he or she learns about trees. I have no doubt you've all earned your green hearts. The following are some ways you can meet the Treachers and integrate them into your curriculum, or help highlight an environmental community event. On the over 300-page free Treachers.com website, you'll find material that can be downloaded, printed, and used for classroom and community projects. The website presents a broad scope of activities for both teachers and students, and the web bulletin board announces events in your community that include Treacher material or costumes. For those children who visit the website, the goal of the program is to capture their interest through the characters and then to encourage them to move from cyberspace to green space, where they can observe and participate in outdoor activities. The Treachers website offers lesson plans that are linked to a special teacher and youth leader section. There are easy nut and fruit recipes that can be found in the Soup to Nuts kitchen. Green heart stickers can be made or body painted on cheeks and the tops of hands for special recognition days like Arbor Day, Earth Day, or any tree planting event at a school. The graphic template can be sent to you to be ordered locally if you wish. There are finger puppets with story suggestions, craft activities, coloring pages, and lots of green ideas. Children can even send tree mail to their favorite Treacher. An organization or agency can link to the Treacher site and can consider doing a Treacher feature in their newsletters. Of all the activities I've listed, I would like to tell you about my favorite Treacher-themed community activity that can be established in your community. The Magic Treacher's Forest Nursery was piloted in my hometown, Eastchester, New York, on county land. The Treacher's nurseries are particularly well suited for elementary schools because young children can easily plant seedlings. The number of trees planted will vary according to the space available, and the project can be as large or as small as the group or organization chooses. We began in the year 2000, and now we have our entire town sprinkled with Douglas fir trees, Norwegian spruce, and some ornamental species that survived. We used a small strip of land next to a stream in a residential neighborhood, but a park or school or church can work as well. We have a sign, an old-fashioned mailbox for tree mail, seasonally flyers with tree planting instructions, coloring pages, and Treacher news fill the box. Charming notes to the Treachers are left there from neighborhood children who stop by to see what's inside and to check on the tree they planted. Seedlings can even be planted in pots in the classroom and taken home to be planted outside. The website has a photo story of the project and the site. I invite you to take a look. In our town, we partner with the Highway Department, a local tree care company, Scout troops, usually 5-year-old Daisy Scouts, Brownies, and Cub Scouts. The tree care company digs holes prior to the arrival of the children. Seedlings are ordered in advance, usually free, from the state or a local nursery, and an arborist gives a lesson in planting. Treacher tree markers depicting the different characters are available through a separate website. The organizers can print them in advance, and the children attach the markers onto popsicle sticks or chopsticks. They choose their favorite treacher and place the marker on the ground next to the newly planted seedling. The marker reads, "Grow, tree, grow," and is there to encourage the tree and to keep it company. All seedlings are watered by hose or with buckets and watering cans from water stored in rain barrels. During summer months, teen volunteers watch over the nursery by watering and weeding. Many times, treacher costume characters attend to cheer the planters on, along with local town and county officials, who dig in too and help the children water thirsty seedlings. All participants receive a Green Heart sticker and a Treacher's Tree Planting certificate, also available by request on the nursery URL. When there are trees from past years that have grown to 3 feet tall, they are harvested and transplanted into the community. Planting. We then have a graduation ceremony with the help of junior high and high school teenagers. The model for this nursery has been successfully duplicated in many communities around the country. As for books, there are Treacher's Story Science books, activity guides, and coloring books, and they're still available, but soon reprinting will be necessary. There are Treacher costumes located in many communities in different states. They have an agreement with the Treacher's program to manage a costume. Sometimes they partner with another organization to arrange for a visit or borrow the costume, and at this time, shipping individual costumes for special events is costly, but can be arranged. In summary, Treachers can complement your programs. You can expand upon or simplify the activities according to your needs, and the site is updated regularly and new material is available as funding comes available. Your suggestions are welcome. I hope you enjoy growing with the Treachers, and I've enjoyed visiting with you today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Judith. We really appreciate that. I have personally seen some of the Treachers costumes in action, and kids love them. We've had some questions over the web about the costumes, so we'll get to that in just a second. But before we do, we want to open the lineup for questions and answers so that people can hear more from Judith. So folks, if you see that question and answer tab in your control panel, type in your questions there and I will read them out loud and Judith will answer them. So just to start off, Judith, here's a one that we're getting from a lot of people. Tell us about how they reserve the costumes.
The costumes, basically, I would like to know if you could send an email or a tree mail to treacher@aol.com, and I might be able to hook you up with a costume that is already in your area, because the shipping of costumes can, as I said, be costly, and the cleaning, there's quite a bit involved in doing this, but it is definitely doable. So I would say that for each person interested or each group interested, to just shoot me an email and let me deal with each one depending upon where it's located. We do have costumes that are in Florida. We have costumes in Montana. We have them in California. There are managers of costumes in these various areas, and all of those managers are pretty good about either visiting a school or partnering with your organization. So it's really on an individual basis.
Great. Lots of questions coming up. I guess one of them was just if you could illuminate they notice a trademark on Treachers, which is the name of your program, Treachers Environmental Education Program. Is this a distributed program, and if so, how do they start a local chapter?
At this point, I haven't really had local chapters, but I partner with groups and organizations so that they can use my material. So again, this is a very custom type program. And I guess you really can start a local chapter if you become a costume manager, or if you just decide that you would like to partner with my program, and then therefore materials will begin to flow to you for some of your events. And as I said, once we get into a conversation and I know where you are in the country and what your goal is, are you a school, are you a youth group, then I'm happy to work it out. And I've been working for years individually with each group that would like to do maybe only just a certain part of the program.
Excellent. And then one final question here. I think this is an issue that a lot of people probably find to be challenging. We have trouble finding youth volunteers to help over the summer. From where do your teen helpers come?
Many times there are different scout groups, church groups, people who do community service within a community, and this is kind of nice because you can create your own internships, and then the children seem to have a wonderful time going even into classrooms and mentoring. We have a lot of 6th graders who will go to the 2nd grade with this program, or they'll read some of the stories. And for the summer watering, you can connect also with a camp. There are resources within. It's different in each community, obviously, but there are many type of organizations that are looking to find things for particularly the junior high age student. They like to be kept busy, and it's good for them to be busy. So I think this is a good program for them to connect with.
Excellent. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Judith. I know we have some more questions, but we also have 2 more presenters, so we're going to keep the session moving, and hopefully we'll have time for extra questions. Don't worry, we'll grill you more later on, Judith.
Okay, great.
Excellent. All right, thank you so much. Now we're about to move on to our second presenter, Susie Worth, a great friend of Alliance for Community Trees and the Outreach Director for Nature Explore for the Arbor Day Foundation and Dimensions Educational Research Foundation. We'll pull up Susie's first slide and get going.
Well, thank you, Leland. And I just want to say thank you to all of you Alliance for Community Trees groups for the tree planting work you are doing around the country. So today I'm just delighted to be able to share a brief overview of our National Nature Explore program. So Nature Explore is a collaborative program of the Arbor Day Foundation and Dimensions Educational Research Foundation that is focused on transforming children's lives through meaningful daily connections with nature. And through this program, we provide research-based design services, training, family engagement materials, and field-tested resources that support making nature part of children's daily lives. So this program is grounded in research by Dimensions Foundation. Dimensions has conducted research on effective outdoor classroom design, as well as extensive research on the skills that children develop when they spend time in nature-rich environments. Dimensions research supports the larger body of research showing how important it is for children to have regular time spent in natural settings. And as I'm sure all of you know, studies show that nature buffers the impact of life stress on children and really helps them deal with adversity. The greater the amount of nature exposure, the greater the benefits. And significant for all of us, research also suggests that the single most important factor in developing personal concern for the environment ties to those personal positive experiences in the outdoors during childhood. So if we hope to have a future generation of environmental stewards and tree planters, we really need to provide children with positive nature experiences when they're young. And all too often, this is the kind of outdoor environment where children play. Nature just a distant view outside a fence that's cluttered with plastic and all concrete. But there is such a need for greening spaces and communities where children are spending time that the National Association of Early Childhood Specialists and State Departments of Education issued a call to action to reconnect children with nature. And organizations like the National Association for Education of Young Children, organizations that provide leadership in early childhood education, really encourage making nature part of children's daily lives. So one solution that our organizations have really developed to help foster future environmental stewards is to make nature part of children's daily lives by creating Nature Explore classrooms where children are spending much of their time. And you can see partners in this initiative include conservation groups, state departments of education, landscape architects, health professionals, and many, many others. But more and more organizations throughout the nation are going through the process of creating certified Nature Explore classrooms. This national model is being implemented in all kinds of settings. A Nature Explore classroom can be created anywhere a traditional playground could be built. Families are also incorporating these spaces on a small scale in their own backyards. So what is a certified Nature Explorer classroom? These are sites that are nationally recognized. 3 requirements for becoming a certified Nature Explorer classroom. The first standard is to create a well-designed outdoor space following the research-based principles in the Learning with Nature idea book, which is grounded in collaboration with landscape architects and early childhood educators. And it's really important to note that these broad principles can be applied in such diverse ways that each Nature Explore classroom is unique and it reflects the interests and talents and needs of the local organization and community. But the most wonderfully designed Nature Explore classroom really will be only as effective for the children as the adults who share and explore that with them. And so the second requirement for classroom certification is staff development, including attendance at a Nature Explore educator workshop, so that outdoor time can be seen as much more than recess, just really viewed as an invaluable part of each day's learning. And then the third and final certification requirement is family involvement. Understanding the benefits their children gain from connecting with nature helps inspire families to spend time outdoors together. And one resource that the Nature Explore program can provide to organizations like ACTrees is called the Nature Explore Families Club, which provides a wealth of activities and ideas that families and groups can use with children as they explore the outdoors together. And this resource can be downloaded free on our website at natureexplore.org. We really don't have time today to provide a great deal of detail on the guiding principles for creating these spaces or to talk about the recommended areas within the Nature Explore classrooms, but here's a brief overview. So through our research and field testing, these guiding principles help people thoughtfully plan their outdoor space. One key element of an effective outdoor space is to create clearly delineated areas so children using the space truly understand that there are different kinds of experiences. These spaces use a variety of natural native materials and trees to enhance the space. Materials that are used to create these spaces are selected for durability and low maintenance. The natural elements in the space are diverse, child-safe, and aesthetically pleasing. Just really thinking about how we can make that nature integral part of these spaces and daily experiences. These spaces are personalized with regional materials and they incorporate ideas from children and staff. And these spaces really also reflect the cultures of the larger community and environment where these sites are located. These Nature Explore classrooms include a complete mix of activity areas that give children a variety of experiences and reach children in all the different ways they learn. These spaces support whatever curriculum or program a school might be using. So this isn't really a curriculum program, it really is a design of spaces that helps support all the things schools or programs are already doing. These spaces support art, dramatic play, music, and movement. Inexpensive materials can be added to these spaces that support children's body competence skills like climbing, balance, and agility. These nature-rich outdoor classrooms use what we call nature's loose parts for creative play in ways that support gross motor development as children lift sections of stumps and logs and tree cookies. Children work collaboratively to build forts and structures in what our children call the messy materials area. This is an area simply framed by logs, filled with wood chips, tree cookies, and stumps. All these are resources, as you see that image, that really can be part of your community forestry work. And so as you connect with sites who are creating these spaces and look to you maybe for guidance, how can you help connect them with those resources? These spaces also support fine motor development, again using natural materials. And gardens play a big role in these spaces, especially in schools and early childhood settings. They foster caretaking experiences for children and give them a sense of where their food comes from. And pathways through plantings expose children to a rich palette of diverse plants with different textures and patterns and fragrances and bloom times. So it has been said that if we want children to flourish, to become truly empowered, then let us allow children to love the earth before we ask them to save it. And that is what these Nature Explore classrooms are really designed to do. So very quickly, we have a few visuals to let you see the transformations in spaces and our research shows in children and their engagement with the natural world. The first slide you'll see is a domestic violence shelter that serves at-risk children and families. You can see an example of a concept plan our Nature Explorer landscape architect created. Look at the trees and natural areas that were added to the space. And then the after slide, here is the space after those simple natural enhancements. And we hear what a positive impact this space has provided. We have another example, and I think we're getting kind of a little behind in the slides, but you'll also see as we go through another example at an elementary school in an urban community, you'll see their concept plan and really the differences that adding trees and nature as well as developmentally appropriate spaces, what an impact that can make. This Gomez Heritage School serves a large Hispanic community and has had national recognition for the academic improvement they've achieved, and they attribute much of that to their Nature Explorer classroom. So how does this tie to ACTrees? Community and family engagement play such a big role in creation and use of these spaces. Just simple ways to get involved. Pizza box pavers are a wonderful way to get families and children and staff. These stones reflect patterns in nature and give a personalized element within a space. Volunteers can donate natural materials from local tree waste. Keep America Beautiful is an example of one of our community partners who are engaged in much the same way your ACTrees affiliates can get involved. You might help a site plant a tree in their Nature Explorer classroom during Neighborhoods Month. Perhaps you could help connect people to volunteers who could suggest trees or plants appropriate for your region. Perhaps these spaces can be part of your community greeting efforts. So lots of different ways that ACTrees can really be connected to our Nature Explorer classrooms. Nature Explorer really wants to be part of your virtual community. So please check our website often to find ideas and resources for helping you in your work. So connect us with us online at natureexplore.org. You'll see a slide for that coming up in just a minute. But on the home page at natureexplore.org, you will find a variety of resources, including a tab for those free family resources that might help you in connecting with those families and children in your community. You can also see certified Nature Explorer classroom locations across the country. And on that website, you will find a Community Connections tab that links you to our network. So please think of Nature Explorer Community as a place for inspired dialogue and resource sharing. So this resource at natureexplore.org really will allow you to connect with others through our community blog and discussion groups. It also provides a place to connect with funding resources, and finally to connect with volunteers through Volunteer Match, which is an innovative online system which will support Nature Explorer classrooms as they recruit and maintain community volunteers, and where they could connect to your ACTrees network. Nature Explore Community Connection can help you build a strong community of support in the meaningful work you are doing to green communities and engage those future environmental tree planters. Uh, so please, again, connect to us at natureexplore.org. And as these links come up, you will see those connections and those opportunities to connect with us. But I think even as those slides end up, I would be happy to answer questions that you might have about our Nature Explore program.
Excellent. Thank you, Susie. And our apologies for the slide delay. We were working with a suddenly very difficult internet connection all of a sudden. Let me just ask you, Susie, are you seeing the very excited kid or now you're seeing a map?
I am seeing our Community Connections link.
Okay, great.
So we've got, I think, a couple more slides, but as I say, I will go ahead and start to answer questions as those slides continue to kind of click through for folks. I apologize for the disconnect in the visuals, but I wanted to make sure to allow time for your questions.
Got it. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Susie. We have a lot of questions coming in, so I'm going to just try to work through them really quickly. One, I think people are very excited about this and are trying to get a sense of what it takes to implement this in their communities. So first off, how long does it take to plan and create a Nature Explore classroom?
Well, that's a great question. It really varies. We have a very unique 2-day design consultation process where we can come to a site, work with their stakeholders, and in that 2-day process, get input, create a concept plan, and then provide training to their staff, and then the next day have a concept plan to present for consideration. So really within a few days, then followed up by a couple weeks, have a plan that they can use to start to build and implement their outdoor classroom. And during that process, we really try to make connections with local groups like ACTrees and invite them to be part of that design consultation process so that group can build those local connections and have a sense of what kinds of resources a group might be able to provide, whether it's nature's loose parts or information about appropriate trees to plant or any kind of support that local group can provide, as well as being part of their network of community engagement through the great work that you ACtree groups do in your local communities. But then to create them, build them, they can be built, within, a couple weeks, a month. Sometimes it just depends on getting the resources lined up.
Okay, great. Yes, and we know many ACtrees local member organizations that have created or worked to create Nature Explorer classrooms with local schools and other local partners. So they love them.
Well, great, and thank you. We have worked, I know, with Trees Atlanta and Trees Forever, just a few of the wonderful groups that we have worked with in this process.
So some questions about education. Are educator workshops available in all states? And if not, are there other options, like other educational training that would satisfy the requirement for, professional development for staff and teachers to be part of this?
We do think it's really important to have that first training be a Nature Explorer workshop, and we do can come to any of the 50 states. We travel around the country, so really can support people wherever it is you call home. And then for recertification, those can be local workshops by your local groups that provide that ongoing recognition of that importance of staff development in connecting children with nature. And so that is a kind of how we really want to support that staff development that we believe is so important for these spaces to be successful.
Right. Another question over the line. What is the initial cost to create a basic Nature Explorer classroom? And are there ongoing costs to maintain such a classroom?
Well, again, a great question. It really costs vary tremendously. Some of these can be done very simplistically. You saw some of the very simple materials that really can be used to create these spaces. If your local ACTrees group can provide logs and tree cookies, and if those groups can collect pine cones and acorns and all those loose parts, these can be created very, very reasonably, far less than the cost of a traditional piece of plastic climbing equipment that lots of people associate with outdoor playgrounds. And so maintenance, low maintenance, but just regular maintenance. Maybe if you have annual water seal on some of the wood elements, replenishing mulch, making sure that wood materials are preserved and protected. So really some simple things. You want to select, again, as I mentioned, plants that are going to be durable, native, really adapted to local soils and climates. And that really all is part of that, reducing that maintenance and ongoing care issues.
Okay, excellent. And then any advice for trying to convince local schools or other partners that this is a better classroom than a better outdoor play space than what they already have? So what are your tips for trying to convince partners to develop these sites over what is already in place?
That's a great question. There is so much research that suggests how valuable these spaces are for children, that just sharing some of that information, really, as the Children in Nature Network says, children who spend time in nature, they are healthier, they are happier, and they are smarter. So that tremendous research that shows how these natural spaces really are beneficial for educators in the teaching that they do every day, for the parents, how this really supports engagement and really healthy development for their children in multiple ways. So I think really sharing that research information can really build a strong argument. And there are a great number of organizations, as I mentioned, like that National Call to Action, that really support you in your efforts, that say it's not just the tree planting groups that say this is important. There is a broad network of quality education organizations that are saying this is really important to have part of children's daily lives.
Excellent. Okay, I think everyone on this call agrees it's important, and it's wonderful to hear these resources that are available to help people make this a reality in their community.
And you can find lots of that, again, what we've talked about on our website at natureexplore.org if you want to explore further.
Perfect. We are going to wrap it up there with Susie, but again, we may put you on the spot for a few more questions at the end of the session. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. We're going to hold the rest of those until our next presenter finishes so that we can quiz Avery on lots of stuff as well. So thank you, Susie. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Avery Cleary, who is the founder and, oh, totally wrong about that. My apologies, Janice. We have Janice Swinggood, who is representing the Children in Nature Network, helping to reconnect children with the natural world around them. And we are very grateful to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me and the Children in Nature Network as participants in this webinar. It's really an honor to be presenting with the co-presenters, and I like to appreciate everyone taking time out of their busy days to connect here. The Children in Nature Network is delighted to be partnering with the Alliance for Community Trees in order to promote outdoor service that is really fun for the whole family. So understanding that many of you may not be too familiar with CNN, I'd like to give just a quick overview of who we are and what we do, which leads right into today's theme. The topic of today's webinar really epitomizes some of CNN's core beliefs in that tomorrow's environmental stewards will come from these next generations of young people. And when we're seeing that there is such a dramatic disconnect between so many children and families and the natural world, we really have to wonder where, in fact, those stewards of the earth will come from. My husband happens to be a conservation biologist, and one of his favorite quotes has become one of mine as well. It is by Baba Diem, and it goes like this. In the end, we will conserve only what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we have been taught. Similar to the Sobel quote that Susie shared with us as well. But we really believe that children in particular need hands-on time in nature to learn about nature on a regular basis, with plenty of unstructured time to explore and discover if we want them to ultimately love, understand, and care for the natural world. And that leads right into our vision for today, which is a world in which all children play, learn, and grow with nature in their everyday lives. The Children in Nature Network has several initiatives that help fulfill this vision, with the primary three being the Natural Leaders Network, which empowers a worldwide youth movement to strengthen the bond between children and nature. The Natural Teachers Network provides support for teachers and educators to put nature back on the academic calendar and bring nature back to the classroom, both inside and outside. So it would be a great venue for people that are participating in the Nature Explorer program, for instance. And then lastly, not lastly, but the last that I'm going to touch on today is the Natural Families Network, and that I'm going to talk a little bit more about later. But as we're getting into that, we are in September, which is the month that the Children in Nature Network really encourages everyone under all of our initiatives to serve outside. SOS, as we sometimes call it, Serve Outside September, is not just a call to action, it's also a call for fun. What you see here are two boys participating in a creek and pond cleanup. Other Serve Outside September activities for families include restoration projects and tree planting. And one of the easiest ways for families to participate in these is to connect with organizations like volunteermatch.org that Susie also mentioned in order to have some of the planning done for them. The next slide that you will see is depicting students and other members of the community volunteering for a day with the Oahu Invasive Species Committee in partnership with Lion Arboretum to track down and remove harmful invasive plants to prevent their spread into Oahu's healthy native forest. The next slide, you will see a family nature club called Kiva, or Kids in the Valley Adventuring, at work doing a cleanup and tree planting in Virginia. And the next slide is another family nature club called Family Adventures in Nature, excuse me, which is removing an invasive weed called bull thistle at Vulcan Mountain, which is just outside of San Diego, California. One common thread that each of those examples had was that they're organized by family nature clubs in collaboration with nonprofit organization, which is a great way for clubs as well as individual families to mobilize around service projects in their communities. The Natural Families Network heavily promotes family nature clubs as a way to meet families where they're at and get them into nature. The Children in Nature Network developed and produced a free toolkit to support people who want to start a family nature club, and it can be downloaded at the link that was on the previous slide for free. The toolkit is also currently available in Spanish and is being translated into Mandarin and French. So what is a family nature club? And we're a little bit off on slides again, but that's okay, just bear with me. Essentially, a family nature club is a group of people that have a shared interest in connecting children, families, and nature on a regular basis. Family nature clubs come in all shapes and sizes, ranging from a small group of neighborhood-based families to a few dozen families per club, and there's even a couple of clubs that have upwards of 1,000 members on its mailing list. No club is really too small or too large. They're just what they need to be for the organizers and participants to feel comfortable and have fun. Now that you know what a family nature club is, let's talk about why. What are some of the key benefits to family nature clubs? They help break down some of the most common barriers to getting out in nature. And as you know, there are plenty of barriers these days. Fear is a big one. Everything from fear of strangers to the unknown wilds. Their safety in numbers. Overscheduling for a lot of kids. Nearly every minute of their day is scheduled, and it's practically become an expectation to be so. For some, this means we literally need to schedule unstructured time for nature and just time to be a kid, which I think is kind of ironic that we have to schedule it, but we really do, given the way our society is right now. And there's always the pull of electronic media as well, from TVs and computers to phones and iPads. Kids even as young as a year old can readily be seen on screen in grocery stores and in parks with their mom's or dad's phones. It's kind of heartbreaking, if you ask me. But on average, kids these days are spending upwards of 60 or more hours per week attached to some sort of electronic media, and only an average of less than an hour in truly unstructured time to play outside per week. Family nature clubs help get nature back on the family calendar and set it as a family priority by helping to break down some of those barriers. Then there's the motivation factor. It's much more likely that you'll show up for an activity if you know someone is waiting for you, right? So the same is true for nature-based activities. It's also motivating for many parents when they see how happy, active, and creative their kids are when given opportunities for unstructured time in nature, particularly with other kids and families. That's when you start to see the creativity come out in kids negotiating and inventing their own games and so forth. Family nature clubs can happen anywhere. From California to New York, Alaska, Florida, and everywhere in between. They can be created in any neighborhood, whether in inner city, suburban, rural, and in any economic setting. Basically, family nature clubs go out and explore the natural world by exploring the forest, birding, hiking, tide pooling, climbing trees and rocks, camping, and even backpacking. Each club really decides what its focus is going to be, and many, as you saw in the previous slides, many family nature clubs incorporate community service projects in the outdoors as a regular part of their experiences. Clubs can happen just about literally any time as well. Any time of life, from grandparents to newborns, all are welcome. Also in the rain, snow, or sun, any time is a good time to get out in nature, as long as you're prepared for the weather with appropriate clothing and gear. There's a common saying that probably many of you have heard, and that is that there is not really any bad weather, just bad clothing. So don't let things like snow or sun stop you if you can get out. Another great thing about family nature clubs is that just about anyone can do it, either as a participant or as a leader or organizer. Again, the toolkit that you have the link for gives you the how-tos of how to set up a nature club. And what it does and where it goes is really up to the organizer and the participants. I know of clubs that are run by single parents, by grandparents, and by a mom who has a son with special needs. It really takes all types and can meet all people. With the help of the Children in Nature Network, we really try to make it as easy as possible for folks to help create family memories that will last a lifetime. So speaking of memories, this next slide is going to be intentionally blank, and I want to invite you just to close your eyes for a second and think back to a special time and place in your childhood. I'm guessing that for many of you, this special place was probably in nature, and perhaps it was even in or near a special tree. Now think about how that memory was made. What were you doing? Were you doing something special? Maybe something in nature with a caring adult? Maybe it was a place that you visited regularly. I'm guessing it's a place that you knew and loved, and even if it was only for a moment in time. So at the beginning of the presentation, I shared a quote with you about caring for the earth and conserving the natural world. If we do, in fact, want our children to grow up to be the conservationists and environmental stewards of tomorrow, they have got to have those special places we just all thought back on. They have to play and learn and grow in nature on a regular basis to have those experiences and create those places. So just a few more links and resources for your reference. Some of these were referenced during the presentation, and some of them are new, but you will be able to link these back. The two main websites I'd like to share with you are childrenandnature.org, which all of the resources that I mentioned can be found on. And then we also have a discussion forum for natural families, for natural teachers, for natural leaders, and so forth. And that's the slide, or the link that you see on the bottom, childrenandnature.ning.com. And there you can find lots of discussion forums that help support you in your efforts. So in closing, the Natural Teacher Network is so grateful to be partnering with the Alliance for Community Trees to expand families' opportunities and ways to engage not only in the natural world, but in service with the natural world. And speaking of service projects, CNN is also happy to promote Nature Woods throughout the month of October, which we will be doing. And we believe that activities like this will help families create lifelong memories that just may in fact help to create the environmental stewards of tomorrow. So lastly, I just want to share a quote from Richard Louv that inspires me personally and in what I do with our Family Nature Club. And that is that natural service is a valuable way to weave nature into our everyday lives. It can support our health and act as bonding agents for families and communities. The more high-tech our world becomes, the more nature we need. And my contact information is on the bottom of the screen. My role with the Children in Nature Network is to support and promote family nature clubs. So if there's anything specific that I can help you with in finding a club or in creating a club, feel free to reach out and contact me directly. I would be happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janice. That is great, and a lot of resources. We now have 3 wonderful organizations that have presented a lot of materials and tools to help improve the environmental education that's available for the children in your community. What we're going to do now, again, is open up for questions from the audience. So again, type those in to me, and I will ask them out loud of Janice for the next couple minutes. So Janice, tell me a little bit about how you would recommend overcoming. You talked about some of the challenges and overcoming these obstacles that you often hear about. What about folks, especially families perhaps in inner cities or low-income families who don't have the resources to travel far to get to nature as they think of it? What are some techniques for helping folks connect with nature in the city?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I think that really it gets down to meeting people where they're at. Some folks in stressed communities don't have transportation as readily as others do, but it's really about meeting people where they're comfortable and then getting them to think outside the box. We have an activity that we do, for instance, called Think Outside the Park, where we meet at a local park in the community that people are comfortable with, and then get them to think outside the boundaries of the park, literally. There happens to be a nature space right there. Sometimes there are even little short nature trails or walks or bushes and rocks and sticks that kids can play with. I often hear within parks, parents saying, no, come back over here, get back on the slide, go on the swings, calling their kids really away from the natural elements that kids are so naturally drawn to. So I think we have to help people see things a little bit differently and meet them where they're at and stretch their comfort zones. Nature doesn't have to be in Yosemite. It can be sometimes in your own backyard.
Absolutely true. We often talk about the urban forest. We say forests are everywhere, and so is nature, right in your own backyard or on the street right outside your house.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit more about the nature clubs, the family nature clubs, and can those be adapted to school club settings?
They can. There are several schools that have clubs. Also, the model we really promote is run by families or organizations that meet up with families in the community. They create a plan that meets the community's needs. Sometimes it's meeting at a school and going out from there. That's another great way to meet suburban and city kids where they're at and getting them into the nearby nature that's right by their school and typically in their communities.
Excellent. And do you have sort of, clearly one way to get to families and parents is through children, and to the children through the teachers. So do you have any lesson plans for teachers?
Not currently. We don't. We have promoted through schools before, family nature clubs that are in the community, but we don't have any classroom presentations at this point. We try to work through PTAs as much as we can to get to the parents that way as well. I have personally done presentations at schools outside of the classroom, but we have not done anything inside the classroom promoting family nature clubs as of this point. It's a great idea.
Yeah, well, I think, next step of development, but you're right, the PTA is a wonderful way to connect as well. Okay, what I want to do now is, we just have a few minutes left, so I would like to open this up to Judith and Susie and Janice, and just maybe give each of you just a minute if you want to make some kind of closing point about how we can engage children in trees and nature, if there's sort of one takeaway that people can bring back home about either why we need to do this or how they can do it. Give us a little closing wrap-up that they can go home with. We'll start with Judith.
I just loved listening to your other two speakers. Learned a lot, so I'm happy for that. And I feel that using the Treat Your characters actually complement all of the points that were made. And they can be used as extensively or in a very small way in order to accent a particular event that's going on. So it's more going through that website, finding what works for you, and letting those characters be mascots, symbols, just a fun way to be supportive. And that's exactly what Treachers are about. And I particularly want to thank ACTrees for hosting Treachers today and for allowing me to reach out to the people who've registered for this program.
Thanks, Judith. Susie?
Well, I would just again like to thank you and all the AC Tree groups, and I would like to stress the impact that daily meaningful connections with the natural world, what an impact that can truly have on children's lives, and not just children, really, as we work to be our best selves in the work we do with children and with families, the impact that that has on all of us as well. So really providing these meaningful spaces and experiences for children, what a difference we can make in those future environmental stewards.
Beautiful. Absolutely right, Susie. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Janice?
Well, Susie, I would very much like to echo what you said, starting with the thank you for having us participate in this webinar and for being there, really. And then just starting with kids as young as possible, starting with the family. I guess the takeaway I would like for people to have today is that it doesn't take going to Yosemite, it doesn't take a lot of money to connect with nature. And just as Susie said, it's got to be something that happens on a regular basis, preferably in their daily lives. And family nature clubs are a great way to make that happen for free in most cases.
Absolutely right. All right, and then one last question for you, Janice. Can you repeat that quote that you started at the beginning of your presentation with?
Sure. Let me get it real quick.
People are asking for it, and I think it's a perfect way for us to close out this session about why it is so critical for us to engage children when they're young, because they are going to be the stewards of our environment in the next.
Yes, and it was the one at the beginning of the presentation, correct?
Correct.
Okay, in the end, we will conserve only what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we have been taught. And that is by Baba Dioum, which is Baba Dioum. You can Google it if you didn't get it all written down.
Okay, thank you so much. I know our listeners really appreciate that. And with that, we're going to wrap up. We want everyone to know that today's session, the recording, the presentations, and a related resource list on this topic will all be available in about 1 week, and we will email that out to everyone who completes the survey that is going to pop up when you close out of this session. Please just take a few minutes to complete this really quick survey. It's going to help us make sure that we are programming webcasts on topics you want to know about. A huge thank you to our presenters today, Judith Blau, Susie Worth, and Janice Swinggood. We really appreciate having you here with us to share your programs and give people some new ideas about how they can engage children in nature. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.